I'm Tim Stapleton, owner of GT Automotive in South Jordan, Utah. Just like to talk a little bit about air conditioning. It's changed quite a bit over the years. It used to be with the R12 Freon that they would have a sight glass in the system somewhere and you could see the air bubbles as the Freon would leak out over a period of time. And then you knew you had to charge it back up, and you just charge it up until all the air bubbles were gone. Well, they still sell the newer product, R134A, at some of the parts houses, and people can go in there and buy it and do their own car. But the problem is there's no sight glass and you don't know when it's full or not. And if you don't have a machine with the pressure gauges and everything to tell you what it's supposed to be, and even with the pressure you're not very accurate. So what should happen is you completely evacuate the system, and then right here every car has a tag somewhere on it, and it'll tell you how much. Like here it says 20 to 23 ounces. So then you know exactly how much Freon to put in it. So even though it only loses a little bit, we always evacuate all of it and then install the proper amount of Freon into it. And then the other thing we do, because the only way you lose Freon or refrigerant is because you have a leak in the system. And so what we do is we always add dye to the system, so that if it comes back later on, whether it takes a day or a week or a year, that Freon with the dye will still be hanging around and we can see it. We'll show you a little bit later on what it looks like, but this is the dye, and it's not too impressive except that when we hit it with a black light, it'll turn a fluorescent greenish yellow, very bright. You can see it a little bit right around that fitting. Turn off the lights and shoot this black light. I'm going to put on these glasses because they make it a lot easier to find the leak. You can see where there's dye, yellow dye, leaking out of that hose, so we know we have a bad AC hose. And here's what it looks like going through the glasses. It just accentuates it a little bit so you can see it a little bit easier. Gives a little bit more contrast. And the bottom line with air conditioning is, does it get cold or does it not get cold? And you know, it used to be pretty simple back in the day, and now they have computers that control everything. But we can look right here, it says it's 89 degrees. So now we're going to start the car up, turn the air on. It'll take a minute because it doesn't measure the air as much as it measures the objects. But you can see right now it's dropping down nicely. This type of Freon doesn't get quite as cold as the old R12 did at an idle, but it does pretty well, a lot better than they expected it to. And every car is a little bit different, but I suspect if we let this run for a few minutes, we'll be down right around 40 degrees, but it'll just take a little while for it to get there. But no, that's good enough. So the bottom line is, if your air conditioning is really cold and your teeth are chattering when you're going down the road, you don't need to go in and get it checked. It's working just fine. And Freon does not ever have to be replaced. It only has to be replenished. So the only way you lose the Freon is if the system leaks, and then you need to have it tested. And we can do that for you here. We obviously use the dye and the infrared, and we can always, or the ultraviolet, and we can always find the leak. And then make the repairs necessary, and then we also reinstall the ultraviolet leak detection fluid, so that if you have another problem years later, we'll be able to find it right away.